Well, good morning, Instagram and Facebook family and friends. This is Curtis, host of Practical Finances. I want to thank you for joining me this morning, January 16th, for episode 2 of the winter series. Now, today, we're going to continue our Managing Debt series. We started last week with Managing Debt Part 1, where we talked about credit and debt and the differences between the two, and strategies like the snowball method on eliminating debt. This week, we're going to drill down a little bit more. We're going to talk about student loans. We're going to talk about medical debt, and we're going to talk about high cost loans. So let's get started. I am running the show today as with last week. So let me switch over so I can share the screen so we can get this presentation started. Okay, as I said, this particular episode is titled Managing Debt Part 2. So let's get rolling here. All right, so we're going to be dealing, first of all, Part 1 is going to be dealing with student loan debt. All right, so a key takeaway from this particular section is when it's time to pay back your student loans, consider your options and understand what will happen if you are late with your payments. Now, your loan servicer can help you explore repayment plans. All right. So what is student loan debt? All right. We know it's money owed on student loans. Pretty simple. The biggest debt some people will ever have. And sometimes it can be a stressful topic. I mean, most of us who have gone to school and had student loans understand that student loans can be extremely stressful. So what happens if I don't repay my student loan? Well, as if it's just like when you don't pay other bills, you end up paying more fees and interest, which could result in wage garnishment or account garnishment or even treasury offsets. Now, what else can happen if I don't pay my student loan debt? Or if it's not paid? Well, you're unable to get more student loan aid. Some students may have to take one or more semesters off from school. Negative interest on your credit bureau or your credit report. And we don't want that. Decreasing your credit scores, decreased ability to borrow money because of those other factors mentioned, stress of owing the money, and of course, it'll delay you in reaching other goals. So those are some of the negative things that can happen if your student loan debt is not paid. Okay. All right, so there we go. Told you I'm running the show today, so just bear with me. All right, so what are our types of student loans? We have private student loans and we have federal student loans. Now, we're going to focus more today on the federal student loan part of it because that's the one that most people are associated with or identify with or have experienced. So we're going to stay focused on federal student loans. All right, so federal student loan repayment options. Okay. With that, some of the aspects of you do have a grace period after you graduate. Typically, it's like 6 months. The standard repayment plan is default. Basically, restructured payments are not based on income. So, structured payments not based on income are considered to be graduated repayment plans or extended repayment plans. So, and we're going to drill out a little deeper here in a second on some repayment options. Okay, so let's look at repayment plans based on income. There are 4 different kinds of repayment plans. First is revised pay as you earn plan. Then we have the pay as you earn plan. Then we have the income based repayment plan, and then the income contingency repayment plan. Let's give a little definition of each one of these. The first one is the revised pay as you earn plan. That's a repayment plan with payments that are equal to 10% of your discretionary income divided by 12. Simple as that. So look at your income that you're making from your job. they take 10% of your discretionary income. That's income after all your bills are paid, and they divide that by 12, and then that's what they'll set your payment at. Now, the next option is pay as you earn plan. Now, that too, will they take 10% of your discretionary income, but never more than 10% of the standard 10-year standard repayment plan amount. Okay. Now, the next one is, again, the income-based repayment plan. Now, they take 10% of your discretionary income if you are a new borrower, or 15% of your discretionary income if you're not a new borrower. And then they'll take that figure, and that's what your payment plan will be. What they're, as you can see, the theme here, they're trying to find a payment that will be comfortable enough for you to make each month. And then the last one is income contingent repayment plan, or ICR. 20% of your income, or what you would pay on a repayment plan with a fixed payment over the course of 12 years. So those are four options, four repayment plan options that can reduce your monthly payment amount and help you be more aggressive and help you be more comfortable in making your student loan payment. All right, forbearance and deferment. So what is a forbearance? Now, forbearance is a temporary postponement or reduction of payments due to financial difficulty. Pretty straightforward. And deferment is the temporary suspension of loan payments for specific situations. All right. So that's the difference between the two. All righty. Now, loan forgiveness, cancellation, and discharge. Now, there are ways that you could potentially have your student loans discharged or forgiven, or just flat out canceled. Here are 5 ways that you can have your student loans forgiven, canceled, or discharged. Closed school discharge. Literally, if your school closes or shuts down while you're enrolled or soon after you withdraw, you may be eligible to have your student loan forgiven because, again, the institution no longer exists. Public service loan forgiveness. So if you're employed by the U.S. federal, state, local, or tribal government or nonprofit organization, you may be eligible to have your loans forgiven. All right. Now, teacher loan forgiveness. If you teach full-time for 5 complete and consecutive academic years in a low-income school, you may be eligible for forgiveness up to $17,500 of your student loan. Okay, so if you're an educator, you can get forgiven for a large chunk of your student loans. And total and permanent disability discharge. If this is your circumstance, then you may qualify for discharge of your federal student loans and or the Teacher Education Assistance for College and Higher Education Grant Service Obligation, or the acronym is TEACH. You can be forgiven for that particular kind of student loan debt, or discharge due to death. I mean, there's no explanation on that one. If you pass away, then you could be discharged for discharge or forgiven or for your student loan. All right. So take action to prevent default. To prevent default, explore, number 1, different payment due dates. Sometimes just moving your payment due date can make all the difference in the world in you making your payments successfully. For example, if your student loan is due on the 1st of the month, but your rent or mortgage is due on the 1st of the month, that may not be the best time to make a student loan payment. So call the student loan organization and have them move it to the 15th during your next pay period, or the 20th, to make it easier for you to budget. Second one is different repayment. Look at different repayment plan options. And also, like we talked about, also look into the forbearance, deferment, loan forgiveness, loan cancellation, or discharge options that you may have. Now, this is a very, very important part here. Declaring bankruptcy does not automatically discharge federal student loans. So you cannot include federal student loans in your bankruptcy, okay? There may be an option for private student loans, but definitely for federal student loans, you cannot include those in your bankruptcy. All right. So beware of student loan scams. Never pay an upfront fee. So someone's trying to assist you and helping you to pay down or catch up your student loans, or get them back on track. Number one, never pay an upfront fee. All right. Only scammers promise fast loan forgiveness. A Department of Education seal does not mean that it's legitimate. Okay. All right. And don't share your federal student loan aid identification number with anybody. All right. That's FSAID. Do not share that with anybody. All right. Okay. So a key takeaway again is when it's time to pay back your student loans, consider your options and understand what will happen if you're late with payments. Your loan servicer can help you explore those repayment plans. All right. Now, our next section is managing medical debt. All right. So a takeaway is going to be if you receive a medical bill, make sure that it's valid. And if you can't afford to pay it, try to set up a repayment or a payment plan. All right. So what is medical debt? All right. The result of not paying medical bills when they're due. You don't start off with debt when you receive medical care. All right. So this is the kind of the flow. You receive medical care, receive bill for medical care, medical bill not paid, which results in medical debt. Pretty logical, easy sequence of events. Okay. All right. Why do medical bills often turn into medical debt? Sometimes, obviously, it's often unplanned. Medical emergencies aren't planned. And so they come unexpectedly. Total costs not known up front. We've had that where we think with our medical plan that we pay a certain copay or deductible, and once we pay that, then we're good. And then, months later weeks later or months later, we end up with a bill in the mail. It's like, oh, I thought that was covered. So again, total costs not known up front. Expenses can add up quickly. Yes. And important to hear, number 4, can be confusing. So many individuals providing care. There's a lack of understandable detail and insurance information often unknown. I mean, this is the medical field and medical bills are extremely convoluted and can be extremely difficult to understand, as we can see from these examples here. So those are reasons why medical bills often turn to debt. All right. So possible actions. Number 1, make sure it's a bill and you owe it. All right. We get in the mail sometimes, and what it means by making sure it's a bill, sometimes the medical or the hospital or the doctor will send what is called an EOB, or an explanation of benefits. And typically on it, if you look at it initially, it looks like a medical bill. It has a breakdown of all the services, but you'll see at the top, it'll normally explain, this is not a bill. This is an explanation of benefits. All right. So if that's the case, that's not a bill. So therefore you don't have to send a payment in. So again, if it says EOB or explanation of benefits at the top or anywhere on the letter, that's not a bill. They're just making you aware of the charges for a previous medical procedure or medical event. Okay. So if you don't owe it, dispute the bill. All right. Now, if you do owe it, but you cannot pay it in full, number 1, try to negotiate a lower amount. Okay. Try to set up a payment plan. Try to settle the debt if you possibly can, or work with a nonprofit credit counseling organization to help you to eliminate that debt. Or if it's overwhelming, you may want to consider bankruptcy. Okay. Just being real. All right. Medical debt in collections and credit. Now, unpaid medical debts appear on the credit report 180 days after first missed payment. Now, debts can still be referred to collections. All right. Now, for credit score, treatment of medical debt varies. But one thing we do know, that is, look at that. You have 6 months. Let's go to the first one real quick. Unpaid medical debts appear on the credit report 180 days after first missed payment. Why so long? Because hospitals want to give you the opportunity to make arrangements to pay off the debt. I talked about this in a series in one of my episodes last season, or excuse me, the season before last. We talked about debt and credit repair, and that's one of the revelations from that particular episode was that hospitals or doctors' offices will give you the opportunity to clear up any medical issues before it goes to collections. So remember the key takeaway. If you receive a medical bill, make sure it's valid. And if you can't afford to pay it, try to set up a payment plan. Now, next section is understanding high cost debt. What does that mean? All right. So what is high cost debt? The result of small dollar short-term loans with costly fees and high interest rates or both. All right. Now, the risks and the benefits of all financial products and services, including high cost debt. Now, there are risks, excuse me, and benefits of all financial products and services, including high cost debt. Perfect example, Advanced Financial. That's a high cost lender, for instance, to give you an example. All right, car or vehicle title loans. So a loan for a small amount of money for a short time. All right. Now, the vehicle title is usually the collateral or is the collateral. Single payment loans often due in 30 days, and it can be extremely expensive. And we all know a place like, for instance, Title Max is an example of a car title lender. All right, so let's kind of get an understanding of how the whole process works. And once I complete this, you'll understand how people get caught into that web, so to speak. All right, so payday or payday advance loan. All right, so you start here, as you see there. So the borrower visits the payday lender in person or online and gets new loan, or the borrower reborrows a prior loan. So let's go to the next step. So once they go in and they to get a loan, the borrower gives the lender a personal check dated 14 to 30 days in the future, or gives permission for automatic withdrawal from the account. All right, next step. Lender gives borrower the amount of the loan. Fourth step, when the loan is due, if the borrower doesn't have money to cover the check or withdrawal, then may reborrow the monies for more fees. All right, so let's think about that. So you have 14 to 30 days to pay back monies that you borrow. In that time period, the lender gives you the money. In 14 to 30 days, whatever you agree to, they will either cash a check that you wrote, or you have given them permission to withdraw the monies for the loan out of your account. So what happens typically in that 14 to 30 days? A couple of things happen. Number one, another issue may come up, another emergency may come up, or you just may not have the money. So as a result, you end up going back to them, borrowing more money for that emergency, or to hold you over to your next pay period. And by this time, you're further in debt, and you have further fees that are added to that debt. And let's say, for instance, we do this cycle another 30 days, and another emergency comes up. Now, can you see how this escalates and how you are literally going down a rabbit hole? This right here is probably, in my opinion, probably one of the, I understand it's a legitimate business and I get that, but you have to be extremely careful when you borrow from payday lenders, because before you know it, you are literally, like I said, a rabbit hole, but another analogy would be you are in a spider's web and you can't get out of it. So be very, very careful when it comes to these payday loans. All right. Pawn shop loans. The item you pawn is the collateral. So loan amounts usually 25 to 50% of how much the pawn shop considers the item to be worth. Now, you either, when it's time to repay, you repay the loan, you can renew it, or you can actually lose the item if you don't come collect it. That gives the pawn shop owner the right to sell that item if you don't pay for it by a particular time. Okay. and as you see the second one, you can renew it. And that particular setup is very similar to a payday loan. All right. Let's just kind of go through here. This is kind of an example. This is Jamila. She has a high cost loan. Unfortunately, she can't pay her electric bill. She runs out of money. Her credit card is nearly maxed out. The credit score is not where it needs to be. But she knows if she doesn't pay her bill, then her electricity may be shut off now. And of course, getting the service restarted will require a big deposit in addition to paying what she actually owes. But she's thinking about getting a payday loan. All right. So what are some options that she can consider other than getting a high cost loan? Let's look at it here. Excuse me. All right. Let's think of some short-term options that you can use other than a high cost loan. All right. Short-term alternatives. Think about why you need to borrow money. Do you need a loan to pay for a need or an obligation or a want? If it's a want, consider spending less money for it or not buying it at all, or wait until you have the money to pay for it. Explore options in your community. There may be programs offering assistance in paying bills, such as utility bills. If you're considering borrowing money as a way to pay the bill, try to negotiate for more time to pay the bill or set up a payment plan instead. Now, use lower cost alternatives from a financial institution. They may offer small dollar credit building loans. Don't assume that you won't qualify. Find out. All right. Use your emergency savings. If you save money, we've talked about spending and savings plans on previous episodes. You should have some money saved up. Use your savings. That's what it's for. All right. Borrow from a friend or family member. I mean, just doing that will save you a ton of interest. Or consider using a credit card if you have space on it. Yes, it will cost you some interest by doing that, but it'd be a whole lot cheaper than a high cost loan. Okay, so remember that. All right, so remember, understand how high cost debt works and identify low cost options for the future. All right, so take action. So what will I do? How will I do it? What if I share my plans with anyone? If so, who? All right, those are things you need to consider and think about when you reflect back on the subject matter that we talked about this week. Okay, in terms of managing your debt. Okay. All right. Also, you can visit the FDIC.gov /education to learn even more information or drill deeper into what we talked about today. Okay. Hopefully this was very, very helpful. All righty. So this is somewhat of a short episode this week, but I thought it was chock full of very valuable information. Listen, I want to thank you for joining me this week. All right. And for this, again, very important topic. Now, this is what I want you to do for me. If I want you to follow me on social media. First of all, if you have any questions, you can email me at curtis@practical_finances.com. All right. But you can also follow me on social media, facebook.com/practical_finances, Instagram at practical_finances, or YouTube. That's YouTube/practical finances. Again, I hope this information was valuable. I hope this information helps. Again, if you have any additional questions, please email me or reach out to me on social media or IM me, on social media. If you do want a copy of this PowerPoint presentation, reach out to me in those mediums that I have previously mentioned, and I'll be happy to send you a free copy of today's episode. Okay. Again, thank you for joining me this week. I definitely appreciate you coming and joining me. Now, I'll see you next week for episode 3 of the winter series of Practical Finances. All righty. And I just want to thank you. And until then, you all have a blessed week. All right. Take care.